The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Cristiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons. We cover Broadway and off-Broadway theater, as well as social events in New York City and here out east. I am coming to you from the LTV studio in Wainscott, where I have a very special guest, a power player in the arts here in Long Island, Dianne Benson, the chairman of Longhouse.
The president
The
of the board.
excuse me, the president of the board, not the chairman, the
Yes,
president of the board of Longhouse.
Longhouse
excuse me.
Reserve, yes.
Thank you so much for coming, Diane. It's you were a sneaky one on me, Bo, I have to tell you. The whole time we're talking about this show, you never mentioned there is this article going to come out in Vogue about you, and it comes out Friday before we're taping it, two days ago.
Well, it was a surprise to me too, actually. I got a call out of the blue sky a couple weeks ago from a woman named Laird from Vogue, and she was she's part of the archive team at Vogue, and she said, "Your name keeps coming up, can we talk?" I said, "Sure, you know, it's fun to rehash." And I think my name is in the forefront these days because in my fashion era, I worked with lots of artists. Which was a natural.
Can I interrupt? She was a retailer. She's had 3 businesses of her own. She's on the board of Watermill Center for
I was for 20 years.
For 20 years while they were going through creating the whole place.
Yeah, it was so exciting.
Home was it Home and Country Gardens? What's it?
HC and Hampton Cottages and Gardens.
That you were the editor for
The
how many
garden
years?
editor.
The garden editor. You're on LVIS. You're the chairman of the Trails Committee, is
The
it?
Nature Trail Committee.
Nature Trails
yes.
Committee. What else do you do that I can't remember?
Oh my God. Well, when the Round Table Theater Company does their wonderful Shakespearean productions,
yes.
I act. And life is very full, you know. We have a very full life. We travel. We have 2 gorgeous dogs.
But I'm sorry to interrupt like that, but I just wanted to let everybody know how many things you actually have your finger in and why you're a real power player out here and all the things that you do. It's extraordinary, I think. So tell us about your history a little bit. I interrupted.
My history.
Yeah, I have a picture. Let's start with the first picture. What is this?
What is that? Oh, that is gorgeous. Isn't
I know
it?
what it is.
That was the first Cme Des Garcons store in America. Maybe, I don't know if it was in Europe, but it was the first big, empty, concrete store that anybody, I think, had ever seen. And it opened in 1983 on Wooster Street in Soho. It was quite a feat. I mean, Cme Des Garcons was recognized by the Met, not this year, but last year it was the Cme Des Garcons year. And did you see the installation?
I didn't see the installation, but you were onto them way ahead of everybody.
Well, this was 1983.
Right.
Last year when they were recognized was 2017. So.
That's for 34 years.
34 years. You know, I mean, the fashion establishment has caught up, you know, has definitely caught up. But it was very raw and very fresh and very new and very different at the time. And most everything I was involved in had that edgy sort of quality, you know. I don't know where I got this interest in the avant-garde or the next thing.
It's born in your spirit, it's in your soul.
I think, yeah, yes.
It is, it has to be.
Maybe a little bit from my dad. He was a traveler, but
I think our parents only enhance who we already are.
Well, yes, I agree with
you. You gravitate to them about the things that are part of you already that you identify with that enhance who you are. You are a free spirit. You're edgy. You're avant-garde. You're ahead of your time always. Everything about you. I've experienced you for how many years? I've been doing real estate out here for 28 years. So
you have.
So I've experienced you like that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I'm lucky. You know, I've been in many times the right place at the right time. And life has worked out beautifully.
It's interesting you say that, because when I was reading the profile on you in Vogue, that was one of the things that jumped out at me about luck, but how you also have to make your luck by taking advantage of it, the place that you've put yourself into. You've put yourself into that place to then take advantage of it at the right time.
That's true. Yeah, I have to say I was ambitious. I was a Baltimore girl, and I really, really wanted to be a New Yorker. So.
But your first job in New York was with
Henry Bendel.
And it just
when
opened,
Henry Bendel was the fashion store.
And you were a buyer.
I was the youngest buyer.
And you traveled to Europe.
I did, for the first time with Henry Bendel, and I stayed at the Ritz. The first time I arrived in Paris and went right to the Ritz. I thought I was in heaven, for sure. I'm sure. I thought, this is heaven. It was a fantastic way to be introduced into the world,
yeah,
basically.
It's extraordinary.
You know?
But you created that experience, took advantage of it, and then built upon it. You built this incredible. You had 3 stores at the same time at one point.
At one time, yeah, 4 actually at one point.
And David, pronounce it for me.
David Wojnarowicz?
Uh-huh.
Well, he's on everybody's tongue. That name is on everybody's tongue today because he has just had his opening at the Whitney. And he was one of the
people you worked with.
One of the artists that I worked with during the period of my stores, which was I was at Henry Bendel in the 70s, and I opened my stores in the late 70s and the 80s. And it was a very fertile and artistic time. It was very, everything was not so stultified and organized, and everybody didn't have 3 managers and 6 layers to get to people, and people just,
they were accessible.
Yeah, people were accessible, and people that were sort of like-minded found each other, and and you trusted people. When I would commission these people who have become so famous.
And Cindy Sherman's another one that you worked with?
Cindy Sherman and Robert Mapplethorpe.
Let's show that real quick. I have this really cool picture that I'm trying to move it. Look at this. That's a Robert Mapplethorpe picture. Tell me who you're wearing. Do you know? Do you remember?
Sure. I'm wearing a Jean-Charles Castelbajac coat. I showed Robert Mapplethorpe. The way we would do it is
but this picture's in his Certain People? His book, Certain?
In Certain People.
Certain People, which is a book that he...
His first book that he published. I don't think it was the first book about him, but it was the first one that he created himself. And so anyway, I would show the artist the coat, or in Cindy Sherman's case, she came into the store and she took whatever, I said, take whatever you want, make whatever picture you want. And that's how we did it. And I showed Robert Mapplethorpe that coat. He said, well, I want you to wear that, and I have somebody to do your hair. I know exactly what we should do.
Oh, wow.
And so, and that sort of, that triangle.
Please show it again. Let's have the picture one more time.
That triangle in the picture. He had just started working with these forms in his photographs, and that was actually taken in my living room, although you can't see much of it.
How old? Do you know how old you were there? I'm not
how old?
The year. Don't ask me how old.
I know. It was like 1981, 1982. I was younger then.
You're gorgeous. You're still gorgeous.
Well, it was a good time. It was a very good time.
But I know you wanted, as the chairman of the board of Longhouse, I'm president of the board of Longhouse. I'm sure you want to talk a little bit about the gala that's coming up this weekend. On Saturday. It sounds extraordinary. Tell us a little bit about.
Well, we've called it Longhouse Celebrates Brooklyn. We've honored so many interesting and wonderful people. And we thought we would do something a little, it's all about art and artists. So we've honored Joe Melillo, who was the man who artistic directed the Brooklyn Academy of Music's BAM's Next Wave Festival. So all of the art that came out of the Next Wave Festival, all of Robert Wilson, all of Laurie Anderson, all of those people, all of Bang on the Can, all of those imports from England, all that radical stuff in the 90s and the beginning of this century was all Joe Melillo. And so so we are honoring him and the BAM Next Wave, and we are honoring Dustin Yellen, who is the youngest person that we have ever honored by far. He's, I think this will be his 42nd birthday, actually coincides with our benefit by chance.
But there'll also be stuff in the gardens by all these people, is that right?
Oh yes, he's made 2 fantastic rockets for us, Dustin Yellen. One is called the garbage can rocket because it is made out of that wire mesh on the public New York City garbage cans.
Oh, cool.
It's divine. And the other one is the bathroom rocket, and it's made out of white ceramic tile, and it's gorgeous.
Wow.
So we've just actually, they've been installed, they've been there for 2 or 3 weeks already, but they will be there for the benefit. And we also have a fantastic new installation by Helmut Lang, who most people know as a fashion designer.
Yeah, me.
Excuse me, but he's quite the artist. I think he's left fashion behind, and he's a very, excuse me, dedicated artist. And so he's created this 22-piece, these rubber poles, I guess you would say. And where they're placed and spatially how they're organized, I mean, they have so much personality that it's really an experience to be around them or among them, or, you know, it's that feeling you get when you walk like inside of a Richard Serra. You can walk like inside of these poles.
Oh, sounds
And
extraordinary.
it's fantastic. Yeah, we're very, very happy about it.
You know, I realize we might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. I mean, some of the viewers might not even know what Longhouse is about. Longhouse is a 16-acre garden complex that Jack Leonard Larson put together. What year? It's 26 years?
This is our, yes, this is the 26th year of Longhouse Foundation. Longhouse has a foundation, but Jack, of course, has been working on Longhouse and then his previous house, Roundhouse. He was very smart, as he is very smart, and he bought 25 acres, I don't know, in the 50s, I think. And he lived in 10 of those acres when he was in his more tribal mode. And he built sort of an African village to live in. Everything is round and sort of tribal and African. It's fantastic.
Well, but he was a textile designer, and he's created the Longhouse is going to be eventually a public space and garden for people to come. I mean, the public can come now still, but it's going to be just a public.
Well, one day, when Jack does not live in the house anymore, it will become a museum.
So what I want to do, because we've got a lot of pictures of Longhouse, let's just show them and you can talk about them, okay?
Oh, great.
Let's show them the pictures of Longhouse. This is the daffodil garden.
This is the springtime. We like to say we have 1 million daffodils. I don't know if we have 1 million, but we have a lot. And those blue spears that you see
those are
Chihulis? Dale Chihuly.
Yeah.
Who is one of the many people that Jack Larson mentored.
Okay.
What else have we got?
This is the red garden. I know that one.
This is called Heightened Perspective, this garden. And it's one of the first gardens. Actually, if you walk straight down that path and through those trees, that's the first property he developed. Roundhouse is there. But he developed the grounds of Longhouse as he lived in Roundhouse. And then when it was time to build Longhouse, the house, he sold Roundhouse. And he sold it to wonderful people named the Bergsmas, who have kept it exactly intact.
I met them at one of the events. They're really lovely.
They
come through the gate.
They're wonderful people. Somehow it's my dream that one day, for the public and for the future generations, we'll be able to somehow meld the Roundhouse and Longhouse, but we'll see.
Okay, we have more pictures.
Yes, more beautiful garden pictures.
Next. Wow. Oh, this is Longhouse from a distance with the Chihulis in the foreground.
And you can see how, so he moved from his African influence into his Zen influence, and the house is based on a shrine at Issei, in Issei, Japan, that Jack finds the most beautiful building in the world. And it has a fantastic 65-foot long skylight in it, and The light is just fantastic. The interior of the house is gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, yeah, it's stunning.
It's really gorgeous.
I love this picture. This is
And the
fabulous.
pond is quite a thriving pond. It's full of all sorts of animals and frogs and things, and lilies and lotuses.
It's a sculpture.
Yes, well, there's much art in the gardens. I mean, you could call Longhouse a sculpture garden. As
You
easy
could.
as you can call Longhouse many things because it is so many things, you know. And see
that's
that
stunning.
in the back, that dome with that's a Buckminster Fuller fly's eye dome. That actually we raised the money last year to actually buy it. So it is a permanent. Most of our art, or some of our
It's
art.
just a temporary installation?
I think these Chihulis have been given to Jack
They
or
should
to
stay because they
Longhouse.
look incredible.
Yes, and we have the de Kooning that's been there for many years, and our Sol LeWitt is a very solid thing. And our Yoko Ono chess set has been there for a very long time. But most of the art, this is Helmut Lang's poles, 22 poles. So most of the art we refresh. We bring in new art every year. Some things leave, some things come. Some things move around to a new spot where often they look so different. It's just unbelievable. So it's good for the artists, it's good for everyone, and it's especially good for Longhouse because we never like people to say, oh, Longhouse, oh yes, I was there once, or oh yeah, I was there a couple years ago, because every time you come to Longhouse, there's something different, there's something new. So we never want it to be static, you know. We never want people to, we like to dissuade people from saying that,
They've been there.
oh, I've been there, done that.
No, but I've been going there for all the 26 years that it's been in its fruition, you know, since it started, and it's been growing, and it's always something different to look at. I love the way things change. I love when the Dale Chihuly came into the gardens. It just
Oh, well, that was, you know, when we had the first big Dale Chihuly installation in Longhouse in the 90s, I was not involved at all. I mean, I came to see it like everybody else did. Wow. But it was the first time Dale Chihuly had ever hung a chandelier in a tree. It was long before Venice, long before he hung the chandeliers over the Venetian canals. It was long before any of the other botanical gardens. It was the first place he ever did an outdoor exhibit, was at Longhouse, because he was very, very close to Jack and beholden to Jack, because this story has it that Dale Chihuly in his youth, or earlier days, was doing lots of things. He was painting, he was drawing, he was making architectural models, he was doing this, he was doing that, and he was blowing glass. And Jack Larson said to him, Dale, forget all that other stuff. This glass blowing is what you're really good at. So he took Jack's advice, and fortunately for Longhouse, we've been the recipient of his talent because he regards Jack as his mentor.
And well, his person that gave him what his destiny was about.
Yeah. Who
Turned
defined
him
it.
on to who he really was.
Yeah. Or made
Enlightened
him
him.
focus, or
He enlightened him.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's really cool. His stuff is extraordinary too. Jack and you have really become very good friends too.
Well,
And
yes.
I guess has he turned you on to things like that too, about yourself that you didn't know?
Oh, sure.
Like
well,
what?
you know, when you're in the presence of strong personalities, you know, they rub off on you, and you know, you acquire your taste and your polish and your everything, often by the people you know and have had the pleasure to know, you know. And Jack is one of those people who leaves a very strong impression, and he has a fantastic mind. He can remember details of design and style, and he's traveled. I mean, he's one of the most traveled people in the world. I have to say, not unlike Robert Wilson. I mean, they're both of those men have been very influential in this stage of my life. I mean, I've really only known Jack in this century, really.
Right.
And Bob in the 90s, but since my fashion, which was really when I started to inhabit the Hamptons.
Right.
And so that's when I really got to know them. And it was like the second part of my life, or this part of my life. And so I've had
Act
all
two.
these, yeah, or Act 2 or Act 5 or whatever.
But I also was I'm looking at you. I thought it was extraordinary that because you did a book, Dirt, right?
I did.
About your property in Wainscott, which was you got a house that had land that had nothing had been done to, and you made this I was there, this extraordinary exotic garden that was just mind-boggling. I still remember being there and in the environment. It just enveloped you. It was.
Oh, it was a great garden. Well, you should have to come to my garden.
I will.
now.
I will. I promise I will do that.
Yeah, well, that was sort of my transition out of fashion into things that were meaningful in different ways,
But you kept it all together. Your fashion informs everything you do, in a way.
Well, yes, I have that mantra. It's all about the same things. It's all about layers and texture and patterns and accessories and form and shape. I mean, it's the same words apply to many things, but including fashion and gardening. And it's but gardening is much more rewarding to me. I mean, in fashion, it is a very fickle thing, and it's constantly searching for like the next thing, the new thing.
Well, it's temporary, whereas the garden, you're building something.
But when you're building a garden and when you're, and you're nurturing a garden, you always have something to look forward to, this coming to life and putting it to bed. And, living in a place where we have 4 seasons is, for me, it's ideal. I think I could never live in a place where it was always warm or always cold, definitely not always cold. But, keeping up with the garden and it keeps you on top of everything, It's like, well,
you have to be, because it's nurturing.
Well, you have to you have, just like you nurture your own self.
What's more rewarding about something like that too, it's besides, when you are nurturing the garden, you are nurturing yourself, because there's a part and parcel of it. And you can't nurture without having it within you. You can't give it.
Right.
So that's why it's more rewarding to you. And the other is kind of a fickle thing. But we're getting low on time.
We are?
Yeah. No. Is it longhouse.org? Is that how they find out about?
Longhouse.org. Yes,
Longhouse.org.
definitely.
You can find out anything you wanted about the upcoming
about
gala.
The wonderful gala on
On the
Saturday. It's not like any other benefit. So it's it's artisanal. It's artistic. It's not the same old chicken dinner, I can promise you.
No, you have the menu was extraordinary.
Yeah,
do you remember anything? What was it? I was.
I don't want to give it anything away. I don't want to give anything away, but.
And you can also come for just a cocktail hour if you don't want to stay for dinner and the entertainments, which is just.
Well, no,
you can't?
the Longhouse grounds are very. We have a big parking problem. And so we can't, so we only sell one kind of ticket.
Oh.
It's for the whole evening.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that, I'm sorry.
Sometimes various people, friends we invite for the cocktail, but for the people who pay, it's for the whole evening.
Okay.
So, you'll be there, and certainly, and my family will be there.
We're looking forward to it. Is there, and who's the entertainment? Do you remember who that was?
There's going to be surprises.
Okay.
There's going to be surprises. There's always, yes, we're going to have fantastic music.
I'm looking to see if there's anything I skipped. But you know what else I have? Can we go back and show the picture of Dianne and Liz and Sky and the dogs?
Oh, great.
It was in the first batch that we were supposed to show, and I skipped it. Here it is. This is you and your companion,
there we
Sky.
are. And this is our daughter, Sky, who's now 23, and our beautiful Cavalier dogs. And we are we're in our church, St. Luke's Episcopal, on I would imagine that's Pet Sunday, which is at the beginning of October, which is fantastic. And Liz and I are both Eucharistic ministers in the church, and we love our church in our
I,
church
I know you
community.
do. That's one of the reasons I want. And you love your dogs, and I love my dogs, and
We love our dogs. Oh, we're crazy
so
about our dogs.
because you and I have been to St. Luke's at the Blessings of the Animals many
Yes.
times over the years. We have about a minute and a half, and I had a video of Jack and the Red Garden that I was going to show. Do you want to go off the air showing Jack and the Red Garden?
Oh, sure. That would be lovely.
This all started when I first had this land, and I was living at Roundhouse next door, and there was a pair of trees down there, perfectly matched. We have only one left, but I wondered what I could do to heighten that perspective, and we had a lot of dead cedar trees here because the oaks had taken all their light and they died. And I thought, well, I could do red posts. And then I had odd assorted red azaleas on both properties that didn't look well, but all when they were massed, they were all right. And so that's how it happened. And now we're raising the posts because the azaleas have grown so high. But it's a study in heightened perspective because the posts keep getting shorter and smaller and closer together as they go towards the end. These Connecticut Yankees who came over didn't have rocks to build walls, so they did it with earth, and they called them ditches, but they were mounds, not ditches, and I wanted to perpetuate that. Planted other reds around, and it became the Red Garden. The pot at the end is Toshiko Takaezu, a great potter who came to America from Okinawa. And it's a hand-built pot from when we had a show together in 1962. I asked her if it would stay outside, and she said yes, and it has ever since then. This is certainly the most popular thing we have, and I like it too.